Right, I think we're live. Happy days, guys. Welcome back to another podcast today on the Health, Wealth, and Happiness podcast. I'm really excited to bring you a really special guest. I really like this guy. He's a great client of ours. He's got a hell of a story. Hopefully, he's going to bring a lot of inspiration and motivation, and also clarity on how you guys can excel within your own online health and fitness business, or online coaching business, or whatever it is in life that you are pursuing right now. Hopefully, this guy brings you a lot of inspiration. His name is Santo. Santo, how are you doing, my man?
I'm doing well, thanks, James, and yourself.
A hell of an intro that was. Come on, you got to.
For sure. Yeah. You really hyped me up. No pressure at all from this one, by no means. Yeah.
Good stuff. Right, guys, what we're going to do is we're going to dive into Santo's story today. And we're going to ask him a few questions literally off the spot. We've got nothing planned or prepared today. And that's the way we like it, like putting Santo on the spot, and then you get the raw answers and really how he's thinking, what he's thinking. Same with me as well. So, Santo, start us off with, who are you? Where are you from? What do you do? Tell us about you.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Santo Chippeda. I'm from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I am a online strength and nutrition coach. I help high-performing individuals integrate health and fitness into their life in a way that's conducive to them actually being able to execute it, because there's enough going on in a day. And there are times where we feel like we could always be doing more, but how well do we do the more that we're trying to do? So making sure people are consistent with what it is they're trying to do for their health, so this way they can get to where they want to be.
Wicked.
Yeah.
Love it. Tell us about your story and where this actually all started once upon a time. Like, how far does this go back? When did the discovery happen? When did the adversity happen that sort of triggered, okay, I'm going this way and this is what it looks like?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how far back I really want to go with this. I feel like there's different chapters to life, like there is with the book, right? And I think, I carry a large degree of pride in my name and who I am, as, ethnicity-wise. I come from Italian background, and, I'm named after my grandfather, who came to Canada in 1954 on a boat, no money, didn't speak the language, hoping to find a job to be able to send money back home to bring the family over. Eventually did. And yeah, there's a big shoes to fill, man. And I don't look to fill those shoes so much as I look at it as him giving me big shoes for myself moving forward to also fill with my own story, right?
So, so I
Yeah.
like that. So a big part of for you is legacy, and ultimately your grandfather, and ultimately he paved the way, he created opportunity, and ultimately you being the man you want to be your own man, and ultimately do your family name proud, and ultimately the roots that have created for you. I love that. I'm the same. I'm wired that way as well. I totally get it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So then, obviously, you find your passion for health and fitness, right? Is that where it
Yeah.
happens? Like, what? Tell us.
Yeah, so my grandfather, I remember as a kid watching him walk, and he couldn't really walk super well, not super mobile. And I remember asking my father, like, Dad, like, how come no walks like that? Like, what's going on? And my dad would tell me, like, well, he had a labor-driven job, never took care of himself from a perspective of health, fitness, mobility-wise, and this is what you're seeing. This is what it does to you, right? And I remember thinking to myself as a kid, like, I don't want to be like that. When I'm older, I want to be able to run after my grandkids if I want to or need to, and be able to have those interactions with them that are, more wholesome, more enjoyable than just, okay, I worked my life away and now I can't move, right? So I think that's kind of where it initially started for me in regards to health and wellness.
I love it. I love it. Fantastic. So, how did you transition into then discovering now you've achieved your health and fitness goals, you've achieved your aspirations and what that looks like? And then, how do you then transition and discover, okay, I want to become an entrepreneur? I want to become ultimately a leader as well as a coach and ultimately change people's lives. When does that discovery happen?
Yeah, I remember my parents, when I was a kid, they had their own business as well. And I remember very specifically the time in which they had their business. My parents would bring us to work with them. So my parents owned a cleaning company. They would clean people's houses, and they
Nice.
would do it differently than the way other companies at the time were currently doing it. So other companies at the time were currently doing it by the hour. This is how much it is. We come in for this many hours. We bill you for the hours, and we're out. And the problem was that anybody my parents had interacted with and asking them how their experience went, they had all said the same thing. Quality's terrible. It's not there. Sure, I paid them, but they came, did what they did, and they got out. My parents flipped the approach that the other companies were taking and said, okay, here's the cost it's going to be by the job, and this is the quality that's going to come out of it. So we don't care how long it's going to take, 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever it is, but this is how much it's going to cost, because this is how much time and effort we're going to have to put into it. And watching my parents do that, we would go to these places, and I could go with my parents to work. It was bring your kids to work day all the time, because watching children, it's expensive. So instead we just went with them. And
Yeah.
sometimes we helped them, and sometimes we saw, okay, this is how it's mirrored in regards to how to run your business, how to make sure you're doing a good job, saying, no, we got to stay longer, get the job done, right?
I love this. So, from a young age, you were kind of realizing what we know today as the high ticket game, the high ticket world, and more so valuing the destination that you provide in life for your service, as opposed to here's a deliverable and charging per the hour. Like already your parents were teaching you back then, even back then, that, this is what you're investing in. It's an outcome. It's the destination, which I love. So you were already getting a head start of understanding about, well, I guess that transition from low ticket to high ticket must have been a little bit more straightforward for you than most, which is good.
Yeah, I think there's a saying of nobody wants to go to the airport, but everybody wants to go to their vacation. And it's that circumstance of, okay,
Yeah.
yes, we all want to get to the result, but you still have to put in all that work that comes with it before getting there.
Yeah. Let's talk more about that destination because, obviously Santo's a client of ours in our second business and we know Santo very well. He's a phenomenal coach, phenomenal leader. And ultimately the difference with Santo, if you were to ask me honestly, is that he's meticulous ultimately about how he presents himself and ultimately the standards that he has in his life are very clear to see in how he shows up as a coach. And that's why I want to quiz you on for people listening right now is that destination for your niche and audience that you help. What is that destination and how do you go about doing it?
Yeah. I go about doing it. I'll start with the second part of your question. I go about doing it by asking people, like, what do you want?
Yeah.
Because most people don't get what they want because they don't know what they want. There's no clarity around what it is. I want abs or I want to look jacked. And okay, but what changes with that? Because there's often an emotional association with those goals, right? Where we look at, okay, because my arms are bigger, I'm going to feel more confident. Well, it's not you want bigger arms. You just want to feel more confident. How do we improve confidence? We improve self-esteem. We have a degree of integrity. Our actions align with our decisions and the things we're saying. So this way we feel like, hey, I said I was going to do this thing, and now I'm doing this thing. Like, I feel good about myself for doing that. It doesn't matter about your arms. Sure, it'd be nice to have, your shirt sleeve being filled out, but that's not what you're going for, really. And, more often than not, what people are asking me to do is improve their health. And health is a multifaceted experience where it includes mental health, social health, physical health, all these different aspects of health that in the long term contribute to a better quality of life. So all this stuff is improving quality of life. And I think initially, based on the way the fitness industry has framed things for us, it usually equates to being leaner, looking stronger, being jacked. And that's not always necessarily the approach or the goal for most people. And for some people, it's a lot deeper than that. And those results come out in a more superficial way over time.
Because obviously in the nature of what you do is not purely just recomposition. If I was on the side analyzing your business, more so high performance, peak performance, and ultimately look at the wider range of health and what you're doing for these individuals, and an added bonus of that becomes the recomposition side of things of what you do. So it's more high performance coaching, would you say? Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. It's definitely high performance coaching because there's performance in different aspects of life. Again, showing up as a better husband, better partner, better dad, better business owner, and just making sure you're executing on all cylinders.
Yeah. I think I even speak about myself here, just thinking for me, when I was a lot younger, I only saw value in recomp and ultimately getting massive and getting jacked. But now I look at more my non-negotiables, what I need to do every single day. I see more value in ultimately my health and ultimately prioritizing that, and ultimately the sub-benefit being the aesthetic side of things. And that's ultimately with who you help is these business owners, entrepreneurs, individuals that are under a lot of stress, under a lot of pressure. They're looking the part, they're wanting to look the part. Ultimately, they've become excellent in their careers, but quite frankly, mediocre in their bodies. And this is where you're actually flipping the script and ultimately creating peak performance across the board. So it's really impressive what you do and how you do it, which is the more important thing. And guys, if you want to learn more about Santo, I'm sure he'll tell you his socials at the end of this so you can understand where to find him. Do make sure you go and check him out. Tell us a little bit more about you and business, because ultimately, how you've transitioned to where you are now today is night and different in the growth of your company. And I think that is down to you and ultimately how you've shown up over the last few years and everything else, how you've put things into practice and you've created this momentum. Talk about your journey in business as well.
Yeah, so my journey in business started with me needing to register a company because I became a subcontractor as the head of a boxing program at,
Nice.
I think I was 18 or 19 years old when I first started doing it. And yeah, so I was a martial arts coach, more specifically, like I mentioned, boxing.
Yeah.
And the owner of the club had said, Santo, like you have to register your own business because you have to start, quick filing for taxes, all these kinds of things. So I said, all
Yeah.
right, so let's get it going. So did that, and at first, yeah, I started billing and for my own self, and it was strange and weird. And I thought, okay, I guess I'm a business now. This is cool.
When was
And
this, by the way? How old were you at this stage?
I think I was 18. I must have
So,
been 18.
so this is another thing I love. Like you're put in the deep end, you're exposed, and I think this goes back to. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you, but this is the biggest thing: is that people think of when you're going to learn. When you have exposure to things, you're forced to learn, you're forced to grow, and you're forced to adapt. And I love that you were experiencing that at 18. I love that.
Yeah, and just
Yeah,
to add to that story, the first time I had gone into that specific facility,
yeah,
the owner had asked me, this person who's currently teaching the program, they're going to be, making their way out. Do you think that you'd be able to fill their shoes? And I was there just looking at what the facility had looked like, and I said, yeah, I mean, I don't see why not. He's like, okay, get in the class. You're teaching it right now. And I said, all right. And, like I said, I'm 18 years old teaching people
love it.
who are 30 to 45 plus, and just took lead of the room and said, okay, let's get this going, and taught people what I knew. And they loved it. And I was doing that for many years. So,
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I think it's just like I say, like for the biggest message that for anyone who's listening in right now who is trying to grow or achieve your dream physique or grow your business to a certain level, it's purely you're only dampened by the internal thoughts that you possess in your head, and the more you can shift them and change your internal belief system, the more you grow. It's the reality, and the more you're able to expose yourself in new environments and new comfort zones and expand that, you just grow. Like an example for Santo is 18. It's like, for instance, investing in a mentor, attaining new tools, assets, and systems you hadn't attained before. Maybe hiring your first lot of staff, or maybe hiring your 51st member of staff. There's a lesson in anything you do, but the more messy you can be with action, the more you grow. And I think that's where it goes back to what we always teach is ready, fire, aim, as opposed to ready, aim, fire. And that's the quicker you can fail and have the lesson from the failure, you can prevent it from happening in the future, is failing forward.
right.
So I love that your life story has enabled you to do this and get ahead. And ultimately, it's been testament to the great growth that you've achieved in your own company, where you're really kicking on now, which is amazing to see. But never really in doubt, because of your implementation is always on the money, on the dot.
Thank you.
Tell us, let's dive deeper. I'm going to put you on the spot here now, really put you on the spot. Okay, there's no preparation for this. For aspiring business owners, okay, in maybe the fitness industry or other industries in the online sector who are seeing someone like you who's really come through, getting some momentum shifting in the high ticket game, want to achieve results like that, what are the top 3 tips or revelations you have for these individuals in actually making these dreams become a reality? What are your top 3 revelations?
I think what you had just mentioned about, ready, fire, aim. There's a saying by William Arthur Ward: the pessimist complains about the winds, the optimist hopes the winds change, but the realist just adjusts the sails. Where we don't know, nobody knew in 2020 what was going to happen. We just had to pivot and make it work. And that's the thing about entrepreneurship, is that you see the other side of business. If it looks like things are going well, behind the curtain, it might not necessarily be that way for everybody. So we have this perception of perfection, and getting ourselves out of that perfect mindset and making sure that we're taking imperfect action and learning along the way. Nobody knew how to walk when they were born. And the first time you fell, you didn't just say to yourself, hey, you know what, maybe walking's not for me. I'm just going to crawl around the rest of my life. You get back up, you find different positions, you learn how to integrate your first step each way, and then you fall again at some point, and then you learn, okay, if I move my feet faster, I can run. Right? So you have to take action, understanding that, yes, if I do things to even 80% out of 100% effort, there's going to be lessons in there for me to improve the next time I come back as well.
Yeah, I think just building on that, like you said there, like you understand this and you get through that fear zone, you go into that learning zone, you attain the new tools and assets and systems, you work at those, and then you reach into the growth zone where you reach your potential, your dream, or your reality of ultimately what you painted. And there where 90%, 99% of people then get trapped after that is that they ultimately get complacent in that growth zone, and then they fall into a newfound comfort zone, which is level 2 now. And they're possessing that level 2 mark, where they're going to once again grow through fear, go through learning into growth. And then you kind of realize eventually that this continuum doesn't end. it's the constant loop of self-development where you're just up leveling all the time, and then it's infinite. And it just once again becomes this game, and the more you can gamify it, the more you can attain the once was possibly the reality you didn't think was possible. And, that certainly for me is what happened. Is just I've stayed in the game for longer than most people are prepared to stay to attain what we've done.
That's a good point, and I think also doing yourself a favor and checking your ego and understanding that part of checking your ego is also embracing your ego and knowing that, hey, I deal with high level execs in regards to my business, and I'm obviously going to learn from them. I don't have everything to give from a place of experience when these people are older than me, but I do have the ability to help guide them into a place of health and fitness. But there's going to be a lot of lessons they have to teach me too. And there's one lesson that one of my clients had told me, you're not a boss till you take a loss. And you're going to take losses along the way, but you stack those L's, and those L's are lessons, not losses. And when you convert them into those lessons, that's when you level up, right? Because that's also another L is level. It's not about, hey, I'm going to play it safe so this way I can keep stacking up wins. Like, wins are soft. You're going to have to get kicked in the face every now and then, and that's how you're going to learn to move your head. So
100%. I massively agree with that. Failing forward. Absolutely key. Any others?
I think, giving yourself a degree of compassion to understand that you are also learning, like we do with our clients.
Yeah.
We aim for the moon. If we land on a star, fantastic. But if we're going to sit there and not put, even commend our effort in the slightest, then that's going to be challenging too. Again, we can always look at what we could have done. But what did you do? What do you want to do? Getting out of this headspace of should and instead looking at what do I want? Because should, could, would, these are all very disempowering words. But if we leverage our verbiage to ones that are more I want to, I'm excited to, I'm ready to, that changes our perception in how we navigate the stress of our business. Because when something is stressful in a positive way, we call it passion. When something's stressful in a negative way, it's a weight to us. But like resistance training, we're going to need to incur some sort of force against us that we resist, that allows us to overcome that, so this way we become stronger and become more proficient in our lifts or in our ability to recover from those workouts. So the same way life pushes on us, we can push back the stronger we are from within. Giving ourselves that headspace to be able to think, okay, this isn't going to ruin me. It's going to be a chance that I take on myself for a moment and betting on myself. And that's what's going to allow me to move forward, or at the very least, again, learn something from it. And I'm going to commend my effort that I actually put my neck out there, because that's what entrepreneurship is. You're putting your beliefs, your ideas, your perception on the world, and the world will tell you, hey man, this isn't it. Or one or two people will tell you, yeah man, more of this. I like that. Give me more of that. I want that.
Yes. I've got a question for you. In a world full of coaches like yourself and leaders who are pushing and pushing every single day, working towards something, working towards maybe a new record month or a certain landmark that they're chasing in their life, for you personally, where do you find fulfillment?
I find fulfillment in getting a message from somebody saying like, hey man, I just got back from X, Y, and Z, and people couldn't stop talking about how nice my legs looked. Or people couldn't, kept asking me, how'd you lose all this weight? You look so strong. Your mindset is so different, right? And I think my fulfillment comes from, like, this might be a hot take, but, I don't think you need a CRM if you just give a shit about people and seeing their progress forward as a human being. Because the more you actually care to think about yourself, hey, I wonder that guy who I reached out to who didn't buy from me, I wonder how he's doing, because I know he just had a kid. I wonder what his kid's up to. I wonder if he's walking yet. Hey, man, how are you? How's your son? Is he walking yet? Just curious. Like, what's going on? Yeah. So I think the more you actually give a shit about people, the more when you see their wins, it makes you want to win too, because they're moving forward and progressing in life in a positive way. And that comes back to you in different ways. Maybe not from the same person, but from somebody else. Or from somewhere else, and you attract what you put out. And if you put out a positive energy and one that's conducive to you caring about others, people are going to care about you too.
100%. It goes back to maybe your first point that you mentioned with legacy with your granddad, right? And ultimately making him proud and making ultimately your family name proud and how you show up and ultimately how you be that leader. Like we've always said, being a good coach is just not enough. You've got to be a great leader for you to ultimately go past the competition and make big impact. It's that. And it goes back to your final thing. You ultimately, like you said about creating relationships, the little things with these individuals, you've got to be a leader to do that. You've got to ultimately be someone that ultimately listens, shows empathy, and ultimately is firm in their direction and pulling people together. And that's the big thing with clients. Ultimately, they respect relationship, probably even more than the result. And that is what ultimately creates the re-sign as well, as we know. But yeah, some loads and loads of valuable points here. For those who are listening in right now, who are intrigued by you, your story, everything you've been saying, where can they find you? Where can they learn more about you?
They can find me on Instagram at santo.chippeda, so SANTO.CHIA, double P as in Peter, ETT as in Tom, A. You can find me on my website, strengthbysanto.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. I think it's santo.1992. There's whatever you can find. If you go look at me, you can find me, and that's the thing too. I don't force myself out there. If you show up into my world, I'll gladly bring you into and get to know you, and that's what I want to do, is get to know people and hear who they are, understand their story to help the others that I serve.
Yeah, guys, Santo's a great coach, he's a great leader, like I've said to you, and hopefully it's inspired you a little bit by